The Black Garden by Dark Law. In the heart of night where shadows dance, there blooms a garden, rich and vast, a place where love and truth entwine, entangled roots and vines divine. Beneath the moon's soft silver light lies hidden paths to endless night. Here whispers echo, raw and deep, of love once lost and secrets keep. In every petal, stories bloom of passion's fire and tender doom. The thorns may pierce, the darkness calls, yet in this garden no one falls. For in the shadows truth is found, in whispers soft, yet so profound. The black garden, where hearts are bared, a place where souls are deeply shared. In the deep dark soil of night lies seeds of hope, of wrongs made right. Here in this garden, lovers learn that from the ashes they can burn. With every step the light may fade, yet in this place foundations laid. The black garden where love takes root in soil rich with life's pursuit. Through storms and winds, the petals cling, and in the darkness, hearts will sing. For here in shadows, truth does start, the black garden where we find our heart. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the Create Dominion podcast with your host, Dark Law. And we have a very special guest for Black Garden episode 12. Again, Black Garden is going to release in September 2024 on dating, relationships, and marriage. And so we have Mrs. Jeanelle Greene out of Vancouver, British Columbia. How are you, Jeanelle?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for taking us inside Black Garden. And so can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing you should know is that I've been happily married for 18 years. His name is Michael, and I am completely madly head over heels in love with this man. He's my best friend. He is my playmate. We both are musicians, so we play out. There's always music in my house. There's always singing in my house. There's always play. And I never thought that love could ever feel like this. You know, I'd always hoped it would. And being with the same man for almost 20 years and having the level and quality of relationship that I have is extraordinary and unique. And I've been able to distinguish what it is what it takes to really have a great marriage work. And so I have built a business from a divine purpose and mission to bring love and healing to the world. And why I do what I do is, I guess my journey started when I actually was in my first marriage. So Michael is my second husband. In my first marriage, I got married very young, and in hindsight, hindsight's always 20/20, right? Realizing that I had gotten married because I was afraid of being alone. Not necessarily from a place of he's the one and oh my God, he's perfect, but really like almost from a place of fear. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that. When we don't heal ourselves, we go into relationships from a place of fear rather than from a place of power and creation and love, really, at the end of the day. And so, inside of my going through my first relationship or my first marriage, what I discovered was all of the pain and resentment and frustration of being married to someone who actually, it was not good for me. B, did not have the same spiritual life that I had, and C, someone who did not look at marriage the same way I saw marriage. And then really taking responsibility for my choice in being in that relationship. Because no one held a gun to my head to be in that relationship. And yet when I was there, I was feeling very betrayed. And so I started to do the work. And it started with the question, why is my life going the way it's been going? Like, I saw a pattern. I saw all the men I was dating were not good for me. They cheated on me. They were always the one who dumped me. I never dumped them. And so I just had a moment where I was like, what is it about me that I attract these kind of men? And so I did this program, and I just had this huge breakthrough moment where I saw why I was doing that. And what I saw was when I was 9 years old, my dad cheated on my mom. And they had a beautiful, beautiful marriage. They were like me and my husband. And so when my dad did this, it just broke my mom's heart, but it also broke my heart as well as my siblings. And he actually cheated with my mom's friend and got her pregnant and left. And then a couple years later, he got sick and he couldn't work. He was on a transplant list for a new kidney, so he couldn't work, and he was on dialysis. And he came back home and asked my mom for forgiveness and to come home. And my mom said yes. And from that moment, my mom never brought it up. She never held it over his head. She completely forgave him. And so I really got to see my parents heal and get back on track. And when my dad passed away, we were complete. We were just in love with him. We supported him. And, you would think that, there'd be no more trauma there because we got the happy ending. But as I got into my 20s, and of course, when I was in my first marriage, I really saw that I actually hadn't healed, that 9-year-old hadn't healed yet. And it was showing up in all my relationships. And in doing the work, and this is why I'm so passionate about coaching, in doing the work, what I saw was that little 9-year-old watching her dad leave that day made 3 unconscious decisions. And that was that she's unlovable because I was a daddy's girl. So if dad was going to leave me, then that must mean he doesn't love me, right? In the 9-year-old mind. Number 2, I can't trust men. I can't trust people because eventually they leave me. And so I had that as truth. And it wasn't like a conscious decision. It was so in the background that until I did the work, I didn't even realize that was what was running the show. So of course I was going to attract crappy men because I had it, but they were going to leave eventually. So why would I get a good guy? And so we unknowingly create subconscious sabotage. Even though we say what we want is love and connection and to feel intimate, we are so deathly afraid of being intimate and being loved and being seen. But it's something that it's not our fault. If we don't heal ourselves and don't get the right support that we need, we're going to keep tripping up just like I did. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, now that I see it, now I know I can do something about it. So I completed that relationship. I said to my husband, listen, I took responsibility. Listen, I'm so sorry for treating you like crap. I'm sorry for blaming you. I'm sorry for being mean to you. Whatever. I just took full responsibility because I realized that blaming him for everything was me giving away my power. So I had to take it back. And so we actually went to the law courts together, side by side. We signed the papers together. Our divorce costed a total of $80 because we didn't have kids and we didn't have property. And then we went out for dinner. And so I was able to walk away from that relationship whole and complete. And I was able to say to him, listen, there's actually nothing wrong with you. You're perfect the way you are. And it doesn't work for me. It's not what I want. So I didn't have to diminish him or emasculate him and make him feel like crap. I was able to say, hey, you know what? You're pretty cool. And we shouldn't have gotten married. And let's just cut ties and move on. And because I did it that way, I was able to attract my now husband, Mike, and create the real relationship. But it really started with me finding my own worthiness and forgiving myself and forgiving that little 9-year-old, forgiving my dad, forgiving my mom, and anything else that I saw for myself in order to have the life and the relationship that I actually wanted, for real.
Awesome. Again, for those of you listening and viewing, find something you're passionate about, right? Allow your own story to allow you to focus on your assignment and find your true calling. And Jeanelle's true calling is, helping others find love. And they always say, the Bible says, leave an inheritance for your children's children. It doesn't have to just be for children. Leave an inheritance for your neighbor. Leave an inheritance for the people around you and teach them how to do the same. And that way we can build a whole society filled with love and happiness.
Yeah, because hurt people hurt people. So hurting each other isn't going to make things better. We got to really rise up, and it starts with us healing our hurt within ourselves. Because I think sometimes we put the responsibility on other people to make us feel loved, to make us feel appreciated, to make us happy. And that just doesn't work. And so as a coach, you know, I see my job as holding safe space for people, especially men, but couples also, in a way that the world itself isn't really in agreement with. Our world is all about blame and whose fault and morality. And listen, like, I think there's a place for morality, like who's good, who's bad, who's right, who's wrong, who's to blame at fault. It just doesn't work in coaching, because if we bring guilt and shame, how is that going to bring us from fear to love? It isn't. It's not possible. And so my approach is just very different. And I think part of what makes me so successful is that my clients know they can trust me because I've been there. I've walked in that path. And so I'm not just some counselor therapist sitting here going, very interesting. I understand. So tell me how you feel about that. I mean, there's value in that, and that's not transformation. And so I think that's what makes coaching such a powerful vehicle. And in the way that I do it is just with so much compassion and really a focus on forgiveness, because I think we're so hard on ourselves, aren't we?
Exactly. The fear of disapproval and the fear of fitting in and just,
Yeah.
the fear of perfection, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The fear of rejection, the fear of judgment, the fear of being alone, and the fear of not being enough. Those to me are the four kind of pillars of where we get stuck. And we all are that way. There's no one who in the planet who's like, no, can't relate. We all feel that deep down. If someone says that, oh, I don't have any fear, I call BS.
Right, because we all have fear. We all fear something. Even if you say you don't fear nothing, you should always fear God. So everybody fears something.
Yeah.
And so, I hope, again, like I said, we already started off, dropping nuggets of knowledge. And so, I encourage all the audience, viewers and listeners alike to look in the mirror and look at, take something that's being said throughout the episode and resonate with it and apply it daily to your life to decree the demeanor of your mind and become the best version of yourself. And again, welcome inside Black Garden with Jeanelle Greene. And so with that being said, you kind of summed it up a little bit already, but what was your main passion for becoming a coach?
My husband. My husband was my inspiration. I used to say to myself or to my husband, and kind of as a joke, if I could bottle you up and squeeze your essence out and sell it, I would be a billionaire. And, I realized obviously I can't do that. However, I can really extract the lessons that I've learned, not only for myself within my own spiritual being, but also extract what are the things that I've had to deal with inside of my relationship. And so, for example, here's one thing. My husband showers me with so many compliments, like 10 times a day. And for the longest time, I was so uncomfortable with it. He'd be like, "You are the most beautiful human being and most beautiful one I've ever seen." And I'd be like, "No, I'm not. Stop it. You're like just you're pulling my chain, just kind of like blowing smoke up my butt." Right. And I caught myself and I'm like, why is it that I'm so uncomfortable with the acknowledgement? It was because I did not see myself as that. So here I am rejecting his love. And obviously not consciously, but there's a part of me that says, how you think about me isn't true. Or how can I trust that what you're saying to me is what you actually mean and you're not here to hurt me, or you have an agenda or an ulterior motive. And so I had to work on myself and look in the mirror. And there's this really great book, actually. The author is Harville Hendrix, and the book is called Receiving the Love You Want. And the premise of the book is you will only receive the amount of love to the level at which you believe you deserve that love. And so if you don't love yourself and you're waiting for someone else to love you, you're never actually going to let that love in because you don't think you are worthy of it. And this has really changed my relationship with God and my relationship with the divine because, I'm Catholic. So getting divorced is a big no-no. And so I went through a period in my life where I dealt with a lot of guilt and shame and wondering, like, what is God thinking right now? Am I going to hell? And what's the repercussion of my decision? But then Mike came into my life at the perfect time. And I thought to myself, well, if God was really mad at me, would he have brought me this angel who makes my life so sweet? No. He loves me and he wants me to be happy. And so I've had to really shift my mind and my thoughts and my beliefs around who God is and how he sees me. And then a little while later, this is maybe 5 years ago, I was taking a nap and I got this message. It was just like I was napping, but I felt someone talking to me. And what they said to me was that, you are a healer and your mission is to bring love and healing to the world. And I want you to get on stage and go speak this and go and transform lives, is what I heard. And so that's what I've really been up to over the last 5 years, is trying to get people to wake up and stop settling for mediocrity in their life because they deserve to be happy. And I want to say to people that divorce is not, if your relationship isn't working, divorce is not the solution, especially when you have children. People leave relationships like it's nothing, and they're not willing to do the work. They invest all this money and time into a relationship, but when it doesn't work, they just peace out. And they don't realize that if they don't heal that relationship, they're just going to have the same thing happen again, just like it did to me with a different person, same person, different name, different face. But we're going to keep being attracted to that same wounded person until we heal our own wound.
I love the way you said that because I always say like stuck in a labyrinth, right? Like an endless maze of timeless unrest. They always say, if nothing changes, nothing truly changes, right? If you don't focus and attack the root cause, it's kind of like weeds in the front yard, right? If you just keep, cutting the grass and just cutting it low enough to where it looks decent, the root under that's already buried on solid ground is going to keep allowing those weeds to come up. And so it's the same thing with relationships. You keep trying to cut the little leaves, but the root is still intact. So you're going to keep growing those damaged limbs.
Yeah.
And so you definitely have to attack what you think is causing the most harm. And you actually have to be steadfast, and you have to be honest with yourself. I think the first step is honesty. Hey, I actually have acknowledging the problem, and then also holding yourself accountable to taking that actionable steps, because they always say faith without works is dead. So you have to be applicable with your problem solving as well.
Yeah, and you said something earlier. I can't remember the words you used, but one of the issues that I see and why so many couples why their relationship doesn't work out is that they're dealing and addressing the symptom and not actually dealing with the core issue. So infidelity is not the core issue. The core issue is something way deeper than that. Infidelity was the result of that. And so people go, well, I'm gonna leave this relationship because they cheated on me. But the infidelity wasn't why they cheat. Like, that's not actually it. And so someone could say, well, I'm never gonna do it again. Take me back. Please forgive me. But if you don't deal with the core issue, it's gonna happen again. And so that's what I do, in my work, is work with the people privately so that they can heal whatever there is to heal, which they probably don't even know is there. It's like a wound that has been open for so long, they didn't even realize they had the big cut and it's infected. And then the other thing is, okay, addressing the core issue. And usually the core issue is people feel unappreciated. People feel unworthy. People feel like they're not enough. And it all, I would say 99% of the time, has to do with their upbringing, has to do with their relationship with their mom and their dad, has to do with that ex who broke their heart. And so it's like, we all say we want fear, and yet we all say we want love, and yet we think protecting ourselves and being fearful will eventually give us the love we want. And it's actually the opposite. And it's hard to wrap our heads around it, right? Because as humans, our innate tendency is to protect ourselves from danger, right? That's just how we've always been. And so when we don't have the tools, like communication, for example, if we don't have the tools to work through that with our partner, and we have a partner, for example, that shuts down and doesn't talk about the problem, and then, let's say the guy goes off to his la la land because he doesn't want to deal with her. She's standing there going, what just happened? Where did you go? And now she's upset. Now he's upset. And they start to just go this downward spiral until someone puts their hand up and says, hold on. Just so you know, I pulled away from you because I'm actually dealing with myself. This has nothing to do with you, honey. This is me getting triggered. And I'm going to go and work on that. And I just want to let you know that I love you. And however I'm being, it's not about you. And I think sometimes when we can just let our partner know that and be that vulnerable, our partner can be like, hey, cool. Okay, you go do your thing. I'll be over here when you need me. I'll be over here. I'll be over here when you need me. And they don't take it personally. Because I think that's part of the problem too, is we take everything so personal. We think everything is about us.
And I love the way you say that, because there's actually a question I always pose when it comes to relationships, and that's I actually got it from a Tyler Perry movie, but he said, you never loved me, you just tolerated me. And so I see a lot in relationships where, whether it's financial gain, whether it's the other significant other being wealthy, or a certain status, I do see a lot of, we're just with each other out of necessity, not necessarily out of this partner being in love with me, or us actually having a connection. It's more of, well, my parents said I should get married, so here I am, or I needed to, I again, like you said, that fear of being alone. So
the fear of being
this
alone.
is the only person that I deserve, right?
Yeah, we don't hold out for that right person because we're like, who would ever love me? And so that was kind of my experience. It was like, okay, well, here's the first proposal. If I say no, is someone else going to ask me, or is this my one chance? And if you don't have self-love, if you feel unworthy or ugly, or there's something wrong, like you're broken, you're not going to hold out for the right fit. You're just going to go for whatever's there, or you're going to do the complete opposite, and you're just not going to let anybody in whatsoever. And then you're going to blame the opposite sex as to why you're miserable.
Yeah, I definitely do see that a lot, where it's like, all men are the same, all women are the same, that
Right.
addicted mindset. Oh, woe is me.
Yeah.
I'll never find anybody.
Yeah. Or they say, I want to find a really good man, but then they have a story called Men Are Liars. So it's like, well, how are you going to find a good man if every man you look at, you think men are liars? You're either going to attract that of which you focus on, or you're just going to completely overlook great men, assuming that that's who they are, when that's actually not who they are at all.
Right. And it's always like that confirmation bias, right? Like, you're already made up in your mind that they're all liars. So even if you meet Prince Charming, or the perfect man for you, your mind's already made up on the first date or the first exchange of, oh, well, I'm just waiting for him to lie, or
Right?
you become like a Sherlock Holmes for
Yeah.
his lies, and you don't even get to enjoy the experience of
Yeah.
the
And then
love.
you go, yeah. And then you go and look for evidence. And so it's like, so I was talking to someone, and he was telling me about a fight that him and his partner had. And he said, well, I hate liars. And he goes, she forgot to tell me something. And in her defense, she was like, it wasn't like I was lying to him. I just forgot to tell him. It was a completely innocent mistake. But he took that as, I can't trust you because you don't tell me the truth and that you're a liar. And so he's gathering evidence anywhere he can to reconfirm what he believes. And then he wonders why his relationship sucks.
Right. And that's so funny that you said that, because I always encourage people not to suck. Because
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
always say, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. So if they all suck, then you suck. And so, how do you, I know the audience is like, this is awesome. I've heard like a lot of great tips. How do you help people, alleviate that mindset of not feeling enough, or not, or always looking for the negative in their partner or significant other?
Yeah. Oh, good question. Really great question. And this might be a little bit of a mind blow for some people. It has nothing to do with them. It is all about your perception of the world. If you believe, and this is, for example, my husband, in my mind, every single day, I tell myself, my husband is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I tell him he's the best thing that's ever happened to me. So that is the world that I create. So even when he messes up, even when we argue, I maintain that this man is the best man I've ever met. But if I start to think, I can't trust him, he lied to me, he doesn't care, he doesn't appreciate me, just from one little misunderstanding. But I start to allow that fear and that poison to create toxicity in my relationship. My relationship is over, right? It is in our beliefs. So our thoughts create our emotions. Our emotions create our action, and our actions create our results. So if our thoughts and our emotions are negative, well, of course, our actions are going to also be negative. Our reactions, our behaviors, our everything, responses, the way we listen, all gets filtered down. And then we have the result that we want, or the result that we have, which is called crappy relationship. And we wonder why we keep thinking the same things and expect a different result when we haven't changed the way we think, the way we emote, which then, of course, creates distance. And then we get the result that we have. And so it's literally going, okay, how do I need to think in order to have the emotion that I want to create? But this process is absolutely useless if you are wounded emotionally. And so you actually have to deal with the emotions. And here's one thing I notice is, however it is that I feel about other people, if I'm really honest with myself, it's how I feel about myself. And sometimes it's a really hard pill to swallow, because I will complain about people like they have no integrity. I was trying to think of an example. But I always ask, once I realize what I'm doing, I flip it around and I go, okay, how is it that I'm out of integrity? What is it about them that reminds me of the things that I don't like about myself? And so that's why it's important for me to work on myself every day to see, where are those, I don't want to call them demons, but those little lurking thoughts that are slowly poisoning the water, that robs me of having the kind of experience and love that I want in my life.
Awesome, awesome. I love the way you said that, because they always say, doing the same thing, without changing anything and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity, right?
Right.
And so,
But so
and
this
so we
is
literally have,
my message. And so this is my message is, you're not broken. You just don't have the tools to be able to address those things. And sometimes you don't even realize it's happening. right? It's like when we have a headache. We said, okay, is it that I haven't drunk enough water? Or is it that I have like a brain tumor or something else? But we assume it's one thing when it's we're not even sure if that's really it. And we keep popping Tylenol, thinking that's going to fix the problem, when actually the problem is something completely different. That's going to require a different kind of solution. And so we have to be willing to do that work. But a lot of people are afraid to do that work. But that's really the work that I do, is giving people the tools and the strategy and helping them see what they don't see, right? Like for me, I don't necessarily see all the ways that I self-sabotage. And so I need someone like another coach to hear me and listen to me and go, hey, Jeanelle, I just noticed you said this. What's that about? Because I can't even, you're right, I can't tickle myself. I need someone else to really like be my partner, be my mirror. And so that's really what I do for my clients, is I be that compassionate mirror for them so that they can address what there is within them that they resist, so that they can heal that, give themselves compassion and forgive that, so they can now heal, give compassion, and forgive others. Because we cannot give to another what we do not have for ourselves. We need to know love for ourselves before we can know love with another. We need to know forgiveness for ourselves before we know how to forgive others.
I love that you say that. Another thing is, practice what you preach, right?
100%.
You can't, you, again, you can't give from lack. You can't, if you have no water, you can't give everybody water. If you have no food, you can't give your neighbor food. You have to, you can't pour from an empty cup. They always say that as well. And so you definitely have to, gain the mindset. I always encourage people to seek higher counsel, just like you're saying about being a mirror. You can't know everything. No one person is all knowing or all seeing. So, and again, like I mentioned, everybody has that confirmation bias. So you have to get an outside pair of eyes to kind of see, what you're missing, and then apply that. And then that's how you continue to develop into the best version of yourself. And so with that being said, what are some common misconceptions or some common stereotypes within marriage and relationships that you've kind of seen within your coaching, and how can you debunk those?
The one that comes to my mind, just because it's so recent, people cannot read our minds. We have to actually open our mouth and say what it is that we want. And this is mostly for women. I think a lot of women have a lot of expectation that they actually haven't spoken out loud. And their justification is, well, they should know. No, they're not women. They don't have women brains. You need to tell them what you need. Men, I coach mostly men that are not in I coach couples and I coach mostly men. And I have some women clients too, but I love working with men. And I just get that women so want to serve. They so want to be the hero. They want to be the provider and the protector and all that. But we women often don't allow men to do that for us. We're trying to be all independent. But then we say, no, we want a man who's emotional. We want a man who can support us and validate us. Oh, but we want to be independent. But you can't help me. I'm not going to let you help me. But I want, right? And so men are so confused. And, so I did a coaching call with a client a few months ago. And she says, well, I need him to reassure me. I said, okay, got it. Well, she goes, well, and he doesn't. I said, okay, well, what does that sound like? And she goes, well, I don't know. He should figure it out. I said, but he's been trying to figure it out. He says what he thinks you need to hear, and you're upset with him. You say it's not enough, it's not right, what he says feels insincere, whatever. So clearly it's not working. So why don't you just tell him what to say to you? She's like, well, why would I do that? Like that, and then he doesn't have to do anything. But how is this man going to win with you if you don't give him the formula on how to win? And so I think we just, somewhere along the line, we have this notion that we're supposed to know what each other thinks and wants. No, we have to be super specific about what we need. I tell my husband, honey, when I'm upset, I need 5 minutes to go and cool off. Leave me alone for 5 minutes and I'll come back and I'll be like level-headed and I'm gonna be that like nasty, you know, the other me, the other me. When we get into that dark place, let me come back to me so that we can have a real adult conversation. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with another version of me that is irrational, that is argumentative, and very emotional. And you can't deal with someone who's in that survival stress response stage. So I need that 5 minutes. And when I come back, I need you to just sit and listen to what I'm saying. Don't try to fix me. Don't give me solutions. Just be with me. Be my friend. And when I'm done, tell me you love me and get me ice cream. So he knows the formula to what Jeanelle needs when she's in that state. And so he gets to show up as the hero every single time. And so when he does that, I reaffirm that and say, baby, thank you so much for just listening to me. Like, it made such a difference. And thank you for letting me go away for 5 minutes so that I can come back down from my crazy brain. And thank you for getting me my ice cream. And so instead of fighting or arguing or being upset for days, hours, weeks, even months, which a lot of people do, it's like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 at the most, but it's like quick. And then we can just move on with life instead of wasting it, being weird and awkward and tense, and starting to make up stories in our head about the other person.
I love how you said that because I think that's very hidden knowledge that a lot of people don't even think they're doing. Like, again, just speak to me. Like Amy Lee has a great song from Evanescence, "Speak to Me," and a lot of people just, especially in relationships, they speak but they don't communicate.
Right.
They talk but they don't listen.
Or they listen but they don't hear.
Exactly. And I think that causes strife because, again, just something simple as 5 minutes. And yeah, I just want to talk about, just arguments for real quick. Some arguments, that could ruin the whole work day. They could ruin the whole rest of the evening. That ruin, when you go to bed at night, you sleep on the other side of the bed, or if it's depending on the argument, you're sleeping on the couch, or you go to bed angry and you never want, every day is not promised. So you never want to go to bed, angry at your partner or envious or resentful or any of those negative emotions. And so I hope the viewers are listening to what she just said. Nobody reads your mind, right? You have to, what is the question I have for the audience is, what is your blueprint for your relationship? What is your blueprint for yourself what do you do when you're mad? Whether you have a partner or not, or especially if you have a partner, what is your partner's blueprint for what do you do when they're angry? Do you guys just yell cuss at each other? Do you slam doors, throw things? Do you storm off? Or for those of you that don't live with each other and aren't married yet, do you ignore each other on text message for the whole day? Or, those different toxic things that we unknowingly do psychologically. And we don't even realize we're hurting the other person, but because we're so engulfed in our own anger, our own emotions, we just, she made me mad or he made me mad, I'm not talking to him the rest of the day. Instead of, like you said, having that blueprint of, hey, when I'm upset, this is what I need. And, if you never a lot of people you can tell people what you want, but they don't want to tell needs. And I think that's what suffers in a relationship. If it's a new Chanel bag, that's easy to communicate, right? Like, hey, it's new bag just came out. It's at the mall right now. It's $500, babe. Will you get it for me? Or the new pair of Jordans for the guys, right? Or the Madden's coming out tomorrow. So the new video game is easy to articulate, but there's things that matter in life, like my emotions, or, hey, I'm drowning and mentally, can you help me? Those things we just refuse to acknowledge and articulate within each other.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with the way we grew up. It has to do with how we watched our parents deal with conflict. And so, like, when I was growing up, I watched My parents had a really great relationship, but I definitely saw like this passive aggressiveness growing up. And also we never said sorry to each other. So, we would argue, whether it was me and my sibling or my parents, we'd argue and then we would get really upset and then we would just walk away, slam the door, go into your room, you stay in there until somehow you're not so mad anymore, and then you come back into the living room where everybody else is, and you act like nothing happened. And so then meeting my husband, who is the opposite, my husband apologizes for things he doesn't even need to apologize for. But I really got the power of that ability to just come up to your partner and just say, hey, I'm so sorry for what I did. I didn't mean that. Can we talk about it? And I'm sorry for hurting you and all that. And so my husband has taught me a lot about vulnerability. And I think that's one of the things that are really killing relationships is this idea that vulnerability is weakness. And it actually is the key to having an extraordinary relationship, is being vulnerable enough to say what's there. And even if it makes you look quote unquote weak, but that's actually not true. What it does is it makes you look human. And when we can admit our own vulnerability, we allow other people the space to do the same.
Love that you said that because, especially from a man's perspective, we always say, don't cry, don't, be emotional, don't be vulnerable. Just, you know, take everything on the chin and just, chin up, man up, shoulders up, walk with your head held high and, just deal with it, right? That's what I'm getting at. They always say just deal with it. And to your point, being able to be vulnerable with your spouse or significant other, again, is the key. Unlock that communication, because before you can communicate, you first have to actually be vulnerable enough to admit that there's something that you need to communicate.
Yeah. And here's, if I were to take it another step further, how do you show up? And this is a question for the audience. How do you show up when you have the thought, I need to man up, deal with it, suck it up, take it on the chin? How are you being when you're in that thought process? You're probably not being present. You're probably not communicating. You're probably not very joyful or loving. You're shut down most of the time because you're busy dealing with this other thing. And then guess what? That your way of being, your woman's going to feel that energy. And she's going to be like, well, what's going on? And now she doesn't feel safe with you anymore. Even though, again, it has nothing to do with her. You're just dealing with yourself, your own humanity. But if you can't communicate that, she's going to start going, oh, he's pulling away. Oh, he doesn't care. Why is he playing video games? Oh, he's just ignoring me. He's not spending time with me. When really, what he's doing is he's trying to process those emotions. And what I know men do is they need to distract themselves so they can, and that's how they process emotions. And when they're ready to talk about it, then they'll deal with it. But if as a woman, if you don't know that's how men operate, you're going to make up a lot of stories about your partner that isn't true. And so that's why I don't mind my husband playing video games as long as it's not during our time. But I know he needs that because that's how that's his happy place sometimes. He just needs to check out, be in another world. It's not about him ignoring me. It's just the way that he diffuses or, just kind of decompresses sometimes.
Exactly. And I encourage the audience to, another question again for the audience is, what is your decompressor? What's your partner's decompressor? Do they like to, like you said, you and your husband are musicians. Do they like to play music or listen to music? Do they like to write poetry or journal?
Yeah.
Do they like to do art? Do they like to draw? Do they like to shop? Everybody has different vices and different decompressors. So we have to be aware within our relationship of, realizing when we need to decompress and when our partner needs to decompress, and allowing them to do so without, again, like you said, without that, what's wrong with you, or he's ignoring me, or she's tripping, or,
Right.
you're being ridiculous, or you're being unrational, without
Yeah.
that rebuttal or that attitude.
Yeah. But I think also is we need to notice when what we're doing is actually avoiding. What we're doing is we're trying to numb out so that we don't have to deal with the issues. This is where porn comes in. This is where drugs and drinking come in. This is where, video games. Like, yeah, it's okay to have some time to decompress, but when you're doing it 3, 4, 5 hours every single day, and you're not actually being responsible for your relationship, and you're doing it so that you don't actually deal with what's really the problem, then that becomes a problem. And so you have to notice, especially like social media, right? Sometimes when our life isn't going well, we go to social media to check out and we get involved in other people's lives, or maybe Netflix, right? We check out, but short-term checkout is okay. But when we're doing it constantly and we're scrolling on social media and TikTok and porn or whatever, we need to be able to notice, like, hold on, is this healthy? And is there something I'm avoiding that I really actually need to deal with?
Exactly, exactly. And again, like you said, getting, like what we said all episode, is getting to the root cause of your problems and addressing it head on, and not, beating around the bush or half doing it. Actually, question for the audience too is, do you actually want to resolve your problems? Do you actually want to be in the relationship that you're in? These are some questions you have to ask yourself. Is it worth it? Marriage is hard, divorce is hard, choose your hard, right? Success is hard, failure is hard, choose your hard. And so what are some tips and motivation you could give to the audience for both those that are looking to find that spark in their marriage, but also for the singles looking to find this wonderful partner?
That's a very broad question. I just think is that you need to love yourself first. You need to be your own best friend, because if you don't, you're gonna, and I think a lot of people go into relationships because they don't love themselves, and they're hoping being in a relationship with someone loving them will heal and fill that cup. But it doesn't work, because it's not the other person's responsibility to make you happy. That is your responsibility. And so if you can take care of that first, love yourself so much. Because here's the thing, if you don't love yourself enough, you don't know how to put up boundaries. You don't know how to say no. You don't know how to say, hey, that is not okay how you treated me. You can't. You don't know how. And so you do these other things like passive aggressive or gaslighting. Those are narcissism. Those are ways people deal with things in a very unhealthy way because they don't love themselves. That would be, I guess, the most helpful piece that I could share.
Awesome. And again, to the viewers and listeners out there, again, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you gained some knowledge and gained some nuggets. I know I learned a lot myself just about being I'm not even married yet, not even close yet, but just gaining knowledge and different tips and tricks I could use as I'm progressing to find my significant other. Again, it's all about the process before you get to the prize. And a lot of people don't love the process. And
Yeah,
it's about
it's
the
a
mindset,
process.
and also about the mindset, right? You have to develop, um, and you have to articulate and see in your mind the type of relationship that you want and the type of marriage that you want before you get it. And then when you see it, you're like, this is what I already saw.
Yeah.
Again, faith with the work, make sure you're working with the faith, and then it'll already be decreed.
Yes.
And
Yes. And
so,
remember that God put us on this earth to love each other. That's really what we're here for, right? To really heal whatever there is to heal so that our soul can progress. Because when we don't love ourselves, our relationship with our Lord or universe or whatever it is that you believe in is going to be so distant. But when you can love yourself and allow yourself to be loved by people as well as your Lord or whoever your creator is, I think that's the most beautiful place to be in. And so for me in my life, if I really watered it, like got it down to the core basis of what I believe in my life, my goal in my life is to have peace. Peace with my Lord, peace with myself, peace with the people in my lives, peace with the things that I've done and not done, peace with the mistakes I've made, so that I can go through life actually being present. Because if I don't have peace and all I do is resist and shame and guilt myself into these coulda, shoulda, wouldas, what is that kind of life that I'm going to lead? It's not going to be a very happy one. And I'm just going to be living with regret. And so I really want people to think about, what does peace look like for me? And what is it that's what is in the way of my peace? And usually what's in the way of our peace is our judgment of ourselves and other people.
Amen, amen. And the question that I'll leave the audience with, and again, I encourage everybody listening right now to look in the mirror and ask yourself, I want you to do two things. One, I want you to tell yourself, you owe you. You owe it to yourself to love yourself. You owe it to yourself to care for yourself. You deserve the happiest relationship you can have. You deserve to be the happiest person you can be. You deserve to be at peace, like Jeanelle was saying. I want you to look in the mirror and say, I deserve the life that I want to create for myself and for my family. Again, leave an inheritance for your children's children.
Yeah,
And
I love
help.
that.
Yeah, definitely. And then help others, like God, like Jeanelle said, God told us to love each other as when we were put on earth, when he created the earth. And so reach one, teach one, help each other, love each other, love on your neighbors, love on your coworkers. Even if someone's wronged you, God says still to love. And so with that being said, Jeanelle, can you tell the audience how they could find your coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. They can reach me at www.saveourmarriage.ca. And so I work a lot with couples who are looking to heal their marriage and heal their family. And I also work with individuals who are trying to figure out, is this marriage savable? What's next for me? How do I find my authentic self so that I can be happier and actually allow love into my life? And so, yeah, they can find me there and book a call with me at that point.
Awesome, awesome. And so again, I hope you guys have enjoyed yourself inside Black Garden episode 12 with Jeanelle Greene out of Vancouver, British Columbia. Again, if you are in a marriage or relationship and seeking coaching, maybe counseling hasn't worked, or maybe you just don't know where to start, or maybe you need a perspective of someone that has been in your shoes, go ahead and reach out to Jeanelle. And again, I'll have her website in my description as well, so you can view, as well as like her social medias as well. And so with that being said, hope the thorns of the Black Garden didn't prick you too much. For those of you out there listening and viewing, it's been a wonderful episode 12 here inside Black Garden. Again, releasing September 2024. This has been Dark Law and Jeanelle Greene out of Indianapolis and Vancouver, British Columbia. And until next time on Black Garden, hope you guys have a good night. And remember to decree the dominion of your own mind and continue to become the best version of yourself. Been a wonderful time having you on here, Jeanelle. And
Thanks.
until next time, thank you.